Welcome to the Biz Bash podcast, where we make biz strategy a piece of cake. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Cami, but you might know us better as Eliza Ann Calligraphy and Cami Monet. We want to help you, our fellow stationers, artists, and calligraphers, confidently build a profitable and personality-driven creative biz.
We're here to share our honest-to-goodness advice and actionable strategies for ambitious artists.
So put on your party hat, quit being a procrastinator gator, and let's get this party started.
Hello, party people. Welcome back to the Biz Birthday Bash podcast. We are so excited today. We have a very special guest. They're all very special, but this one's extra special because she's also a watercolor artist. So shout out to the watercolor artists of the world. We have Grace Manning of Grace Manning Art. We're going to be talking about the business of being a portrait artist and doing custom work. And Grace is just, you guys, she is like one of my all-time favorite artists. Like, not even going to lie. I love her work. I'm obsessed with it. She's amazing. She is so super talented and so super sweet. So I'm going to read her bio because Elizabeth is making me read the bio. So here we go. Okay, here we go. So Grace is a full-time watercolor portrait artist. She is based out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. So another shout out. We love the fellow Tennesseans. She is best known for her detailed and meticulously layered human and pet portraits, as well as her interesting color techniques used for painting human skin. And I will say that this is for sure like her thing. Like, she does like these layers of blue and green. It's like really cool. Anyway, side tangent. So many small businesses, hers began in 2020 when COVID lockdowns placed a halt on things outside the home. And since going full-time in June of that year, she has sold over 500 custom portraits, been featured in local newspapers and magazines, and is now working to create online courses for other aspiring portrait artists. So cool, Grace. Okay, so before starting her portrait business, Grace had a background in marketing and was working towards earning her master's degree in marriage and family therapy with the aim of specializing in art therapy, which I don't even know what that is, but it sounds amazing, and I can't wait to hear about it. So in the same vein, she now hopes to provide joy to her clients by bringing new life to old memories through timeless, detailed, and personal art. So Grace, welcome to the show. Cannot wait to chat.
Thanks for having me. This is, like I was telling them before we turned the microphones on, this is just so surreal. So super honored to be here.
And I super put her on the spot because she pitched us and was like, I would really love to hear from a portrait artist. And I was like, how about you? Let's do it.
She's like, great. I love hearing from myself.
Yes, this is exactly what I meant.
That's totally what I wanted.
Yeah, so we're making Grace be the voice she wished she could have heard from, you know? That's how it's going today.
Yes.
But that bio and the little summary from Cami was so sweet and so perfect. While Cami was reading that, I was scrolling through Grace's Instagram feed, and truly, truly so amazing, so talented. We can't wait to get started on all these questions. And first and foremost, we would love to hear from you, kind of in your own words, like bio aside. When did you first start painting? And do you remember the first art you ever created as a kid? Sorry, this is like a three-parter. And how did you know this was something you could maybe do as a career? So like, take us way back to where it all started.
Man, I don't even know if I want to go all the way back.
Okay.
I feel like most of us in the creative industry, this might be a blanket statement, but I feel like a lot of us were like the artsy kids. Obviously, I wish I had a pop like Cami did that painted. Neither of my parents, actually, both of my parents are like computer programmer type people. So I was very much the oddball in being like having any interest in art. And so I honestly can't remember the first art I created as a kid. It was probably a mess, and it was probably for school, but it was kind of really, when I think about like early art, I think like middle school, early high school, maybe is like when I actually tried at anything. But then even it really still wasn't even until college. I did add a studio art minor in college just to have fun. I was like majoring, like I mentioned, in marketing and communications, and I kind of just wanted to have some fun classes. And so I threw on a minor just so that I could like have an excuse to paint. And it wasn't until like my senior year actually of college when I took some classes that really, junior, senior year, that really like inspired me to kind of, I don't know, really try and care. But I think the end of your question was like, how did I know this was something I could do as a career? And I think, gosh, the answer to that is never, never, ever, ever, ever. And even when I started, it still wasn't something that I thought would be a career. And even still, like, if I'm honest, even still, I'm kind of like, this is still kind of like an experiment. It's still kind of fun. Like, it's just one of those surreal things. I was even talking with my husband about, like, it's so recent in history to when people could do things like this as a career. And so it's just still kind of crazy. I don't even think I've fully accepted it. So I'm not even sure when to tell you that this was a career in my head. I'm still working on that one.
Yeah, it's so funny how we just like fall into it and you're like, oh, people are paying me money for doing art. I guess this is my job now. And like it's just very weird. Like I feel like that's kind of how my journey started too. Like I had no intention of it being like a business or anything. I was like, this is cool. This is cool. But then you just kind of like get going. You're like, oh wait, I accidentally made a business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's crazy that yours happened during all the COVID shenanigans. Like you went full time in June, which is like right in the thick of like the like craziness and all the shenanigans going on. So I'm sure that was like a really scary time. So can you talk about like how that timing kind of ended up like that? Or like, was it scary to start off like that? Or did you just feel like, oh, I have more time now? I don't know what your job was like before that or how things were going, but just tell us about that transition.
Yeah, for sure. So actually, right before that in 2019, I was a marketing coordinator at a chiropractic's office. And that was my desk job that, though they're a great company, it's kind of like I related to you, Elizabeth, when you talk about hating your job. And that was just that job where I was staring out the window every day and like, please get me out of here. And it's funny, I always related with you guys with your Biz birthday, the actual day, because September 16th of 2019 was when or 14th, whatever it was. It's the same day because now I don't consider it my business birthday, but then I did because it was when I was working there. I created my Instagram and I started just uploading like past artwork I had done. And then I listened to this podcast and you're like, this is our Biz birthday. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, that's my Biz birthday. Or it was it's not actually when I went full time, but that was when I created my Instagram account. And I was like, we are sisters. They just don't know. And, but I had just left that job and I had actually gone back and I was getting my master's in the beginning of 2020. Like I had mentioned, in marriage and family therapy, which is my husband is a marriage and family therapist. And we had received some counseling, premarital counseling that just really changed our lives. And it was in the realm of marriage and family counseling. And so we've always kind of wanted to do counseling together, but I've had this huge leaning towards art therapy, specifically with kids. It's just really transformative. But when COVID hit, all of our classes went to Zoom. And it is really difficult to learn how to do play therapy or art therapy online and actually stay engaged. And so during most of my classes, I just was painting and doodling and turning my camera off. And I was definitely not involved at all. And so honestly, when that semester ended in May, I was already kind of selling paintings a little bit on the side. And my husband was like, why don't you just take this break from May to whenever classes start, August, and just give it your all and see what you can do with the summer. And so it really was just a summer experiment that kind of like, it just turned full time. It just, ever since I ran a flash sale, because while I was painting in my classes, which I'm sure my professors would love to hear, I was just like, well, I'm bored. And so I ran a flash sale and I was like, here's some discounted portraits. And I've just, honestly, it sounds crazy, but I've had a wait list ever since then. It just never stopped. So
that's so cool though. I know I could end up being on your wait list, just FYI. Because it was like I was getting a million ideas when I was looking at your work of portraits of people I could ask for and things that would like be meaningful to my family and stuff. But it's funny what you said about kind of it ended up being an experiment and just ended up being the right time, because I know that 2020 ended up being powerful for a lot of people in their businesses in different ways. It wasn't all bad. It led to some good changes for people too, and good changes in life in general. So it's always encouraging to hear one of those stories. So tell us what the biggest shock to your system was going full-time with your business, and what mindset changes did you kind of have to make right away once you became your own boss?
Gosh. Yeah, it was really honestly, looking through some of these questions, it was very reflective having to go back and think about it because it doesn't feel like it's been that long. And in other ways, it feels like it was 10 years ago when I started this. Definitely the biggest shock, and I think in a lot of ways still the biggest hurdle, is kind of never having worked at a desk job. You complete a project, right? Or like you end your work day. You never really have that. Like when you work for yourself, you're kind of like, am I finished? Like I don't think I'm finished. I could push myself a little bit more, or like my office is upstairs. And so anytime I was resting, it was always like, well, I'm my own boss and I could earn as much money as I wanted if I just kept working. And so it was kind of this like not having someone there telling me when it was time to quit or when to stop pushing myself until my body did and I hit burnout. But I think that was probably one of the biggest shocks to me. It was just kind of having to learn for myself when to call it quits and when to push pause. But as far as mindset changes, it's almost kind of what I mentioned earlier, with this being a real job, like taking myself seriously was a huge mindset shift I had to make really early on. When it's your hobby turned job and it's also something that you're not totally sure. I mean, it's your name and it's your work associated with like potentially lots of money, and taking yourself seriously for something that maybe you've just been doodling with for a lot of years, at least for me, it was a huge hurdle. So I think, and honestly, in some ways, there are still days where I struggle with that. But yeah, taking myself seriously, learning how to market myself, and like viewing this as like, this is like my job. This is my legitimate job. And I have just as much legitimacy to be advertising myself and marketing my products as someone who works in sales full time. Like that was a big mindset shift.
Yeah, for sure. I totally relate to the being like the worst boss ever. Like if someone was like, who was the worst boss you've ever had? I'd be like, myself. I am actually a horrible boss. Like
Yes.
I would not want to work for myself because I'd be like, no days off, no time off. You sit here and you get stuff done. But it's like such a blessing and a curse at the same time because you're like so excited about your business that you want to keep working on it. But like you also have to like stop for a second. So I totally relate to that, like being just the worst boss and like figuring out how to manage yourself and get yourself to like just chill out for a minute.
Oh man. Oh yeah.
Because I'm like, you're just being lazy. Like idle hands are the devil's workshop. Like go in there and get it done. But also side tangent too, since your business name is also your name, do you ever get like, when you say what your business name is to people, do you just feel like super awkward sometimes? People are like, what's your name? You're like, oh, I'm Grace. And they're like, what's your business name? You're like, it's Grace Manning Art. And like, because when I say like, what's your shop name? I'm like, Cami Monet. They're like, what? I thought that was your name. I'm like, it is my name, but it's also I named it after myself. And it's like so awkward. And sometimes I'm like, why didn't you just pick like something like Monet Paper Co. or something weird? I don't know. Like my name just drives me crazy. So I just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh my gosh. My sales pitch is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Luckily for like most places where I have to give a sales pitch, like events and things, luckily there's a big sign behind my head, like with my business name on it. So I don't have too many people asking like what my business name is. But when it is just like out and about and people are like, oh, what do you do? And like, what's your business? Then it is, I don't even have a good answer for this. Most of the time I still stumble over myself and I'm just kind of like, I do art. And so it's, I still struggle.
That's what I say.
Because everyone, their first thing they think of when they hear that, they're like, oh, so you have an Etsy shop? And you're like, well, I mean, like technically yes, but like what I do encompasses so much more than just like having an Etsy shop. Like anyone can start an Etsy shop. It takes 10 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just convinced all these people think that I'm just like gluing popsicle sticks together, which actually isn't too far off with what I'm doing with party pennants at the same time. And I'm like, Alex, these people think that I'm just in the basement, like gluing construction paper together. And because I'm like, I'm an artist and my business is Cami Monet. And like, but now they can be like, I have a shop in Winter Park. They're like, oh, okay. I'm like, yes.
Right.
It's worth all the rent just to be able to say that. Honestly.
Isn't it crazy? Just some things that provide legitimacy to your business. Because it is true to some degree. Like I am upstairs doing just hobbying all day long. I'm painting. But I was even talking with my husband not too long ago. Like I know I put in more hours than like most all of my friends that have corporate jobs. Like it's that whole like I quit my 9 to 5 to work 24/7. It's
For
like,
sure.
It's so true. And the legitimacy of like work hours and effort is definitely there. But when you talk about it with people, the reality is that I am kind of crafting all day long, and I'm coming up with reels and painting and doing silly things, but gluing popsicle sticks together. It's funny. I actually just went to Lowe's last night and got some wood and wood glue. So I'm literally gluing. I'm trying to make my own frames. And so it's a whole, I don't know, trying to add some legitimacy is always another mind game.
Yes, for sure. And see, that's my own issue I'm working on. I'm like, why do I even care if these people think how legitimate my business is? I don't know. But that's a whole nother side tangent. So.
I love bragging to like family and friends about my other friends who do own businesses and are artists and stuff. So I was showing my dad just this past weekend a bunch of Cammie's party pennants. And I was like explaining to him, I was like, she like gets the dowel rod and then she gets the pennants die cut from this company. They were like printed and die cut and sent to her. Then they like glue/tape stapled this part here, and then they like pull all the ribbons. The look on his face while I was like explaining this like a mad scientist was the funniest thing. And I was like, Dad, I was like, these are like her bread and butter. They just sell so well. He like couldn't even comprehend like how much effort goes into each one that you make.
I literally I was just telling, I don't know who I was telling, somebody this. I was like, I am like consider myself like a very professional artist. Like I feel like I can do good artwork. Like I can do nice watercolors, like my portrait, like not necessarily portraits, but like landscapes and stuff that I spend a lot of time on. And I'm like, this is really good work. Like I'm really proud of this. Won't sell any of those. I glue a piece of paper where I write sloppily one word on a stick and it sells like hotcakes. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like this is what like it drives me insane. But anyway.
I feel like it's kind of the same strategy now for Reels. Like I feel like Reels is the one that you care about the least that ends up selling and being fantastic.
It's ridiculous. And you're just like, okay, well, whatever makes money. But obviously to shift gears back to Grace and not about me and party pennants, this Grace is doing it very well about doing her beautiful watercolor portraits and not having to do crazy little party things like me.
Before we leave party pennants, I do have to say, because I know Julianne, right? She puts them together.
Oh, yeah, we talk about you all the time.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's just such a small world feeling because Julianne was like one of my first followers. Like back when I had like 500 followers, which granted I don't have too many more, but I mean, when I had like barely anyone, and she's been there from the beginning and like won some early giveaways for me. So seeing her now like work for you, it's this whole like, what? Everyone knows each other. It's crazy.
So great. I know me and Julianne were just fangirling about you. Just the other day, we were just fangirling. I was like, look at her stuff. She's like, I know. She was like, she is amazing. Like, she is so incredible. So we were both just like singing your praises. And we just think you're awesome. So you're a hot topic at the Camera Studio.
Hot topic. Well, I just had to give her a shout out. She's one of the OGs. I love her.
Yes, we love Julianne. She's the best.
Julianne is so fun. She and I were like buds when we were having the sip and shop event for Cammie. Just like dinking around behind the scenes and like Cammie's holding down the fort and we're like in the back like putting together gift tag sets. I was like sitting behind the table and it's just fun. They just have a lot of fun. So Grace, once again, Cammie like tried to bring it back to you and then you pushed it back to Cammie, but now I'll officially bring it back to you.
All right, fix the train. It is derailed.
I love it. I've missed this so much since like Cammie's not on the guest
ones. I'm the train derailer.
It's so boring when I'm by myself, honestly. So we have a lot of stationers and wedding professionals in the audience who are listening to this, artists from all walks, to be honest. But since you've listened to our podcast a long time, can you tell us what you think the biggest difference is between the way a wedding service-based business is run and your portrait business, just to like kind of hold up the mirror and show people maybe?
For sure. Yeah. And first I'll say there's so many similarities. I mean, I've listened to your podcast since the very beginning. And then when I did find it, I went back and listened to the ones at the beginning. And there's like just so much that you can take it's so applicable. But I think the main differences and some of the reason I was like, had pitched, like, let's hear from someone like a portrait artist is I think like the number of clients that we see is oftentimes, I mean, exponentially higher. Granted, I know that you guys have mentioned there's kind of like a wide range of people, even within the wedding stationery business. Some people, like you or Cammie, might take 10 or 20 a year, and then other people take hundreds. As far as portraits, I could take anywhere between, I typically take somewhere between 200 and 300 clients a year. And then the price point is obviously smaller. It's not necessarily in the thousands of dollars. It's probably like in the hundreds of dollars. And then also timeline. It's a shorter, granted, depending upon the season, the wait list is longer, but the timeline, it's a shorter timeline. I'm not working with like a bride for a year. I'm typically working with the client for a couple of months at most. And then even then, my communication with them is kind of something up front and then something on the back end, but it's not constant throughout that time. So I think all of those things kind of affect like even whether or not we have as many contracts as you guys do, like in the, there's not as much at stake. I mean, financially or even time wise. So I think those are the main differences.
Yeah, I think like the time difference, especially, and just like the amount of clients. Can you talk us through a little bit of like your workflow with booking a client for a portrait and what that kind of looks like? I think that would be really helpful for other artists who want to kind of get in this space.
Yeah, for sure.
We will move this question up. I'm gonna, edit the Google Doc. No, you're good, Cami.
This is a conversation. It's not
the
a
perfect segue. I just don't want us to like read it again later like dummies.
I won't. I didn't even read it. I'm sorry.
So my workflow is definitely, I think like most people, it's taken a little bit to curate, but now I have a system that I really like, which early shout out to Dubsado. They definitely have helped it. But I have a lead capture form on my website that people can go to. And so if someone's interested in a portrait, I direct them there. And on that form, they'll tell me like the kind of portrait that they'd like to have. I have a few different options there. They'll upload their reference photos, and then they'll also give me like their shipping information, like where to ship their portrait. And then they'll also click if they already know, like if they're going to want like extra prints and stuff, because all that information will go into my response email to them. So anyways, that puts them in kind of like that. They get an automatic email after that from me. And then in a couple days, I'll respond to them via email after looking at that form. And I know some people take money right up front, like right when they send in that form, but there's a lot of people that I don't take on now. It's kind of that whole, like, as you grow, you find your niche client. There's some people that want some crazy things, or they want you to work from some really terrible photos. And I think I've just gotten to a point where I don't take them on anymore. So I don't say yes to every client. And for that reason, I do take a couple of days to just kind of review the form. And then if they are a client that I want to take on, I'll, in their email that I send back to them, at that point, I'll send them a deposit link, and I'll give them a timeline of like when I'm expecting to work on their portrait. And then also maybe like my feedback on their reference photos if we need to critique anything. But then once they've paid their deposit, I book them a spot on my calendar. And then once I get to like their month for starting their portrait, and even honestly, a lot of times closer to like their week of me working on their portrait, I'll go on ahead and send them an email that has their final invoice attached to it, so they can go on ahead and pay the rest. And then I'll start to send them some like progress photos as I have them, if it's long enough for me to even send them progress photos. Sometimes I finish a portrait in a day, so I kind of am just like, here you go, it's finished. But once they've paid their final invoice, then I'll send them final photos, tracking information. And in that email, I'll also have, this is relatively new for me this year, but I've added a feedback form link on there. And that's been really helpful for me because it gives people like, kind of like you guys talk about getting reviews. It's like when they're most excited. It's like their first time seeing like their finished portrait is in that email. And then on that feedback form, I have a spot like you can leave an official review here, but then I also have blanks for like, what are things that I could have done better? And like, what was your favorite part of the process? And on all of it, it says I can like use any of the things that they write on there for marketing purposes. But so that's helped me a lot with gathering reviews. But then once they do receive their portrait and I get a notification of that, I'll send out a final email, just final wrap up. Thank you. Another link to that feedback form if they haven't already filled it out, and we're done.
I love it. It's perfect. Great workflow. I just want to point out too that for everyone listening, I especially love this part in your process of having them send in a photo before you even like discuss pricing or anything, just so you can like review it and see, is this a good fit? Because they don't know if they're a good fit for you necessarily. Like you could, as an artist, you can look at a photo right away and be like, oh, this is a good reference photo, or I can work with this, or here's what I would actually need, or the angle's kind of weird. It's not going to translate well. Some people send these photos that they think are really beautiful and you're like, this is literally a black sky and it's just not going to look well in watercolor. Like it's just not.
Yes.
So like, be like, let me give you a black canvas. And like, I had someone send something like that. So that's why it's top of mind. So you immediately can assess like, oh, this is a good portrait. This is something I can work with before you even accept payment. Because like once you kind of accept that first deposit, you are kind of like locked in. Well, not locked in, but you've kind of said like, oh yeah, we can start this deal. And you are just creating more stress for yourself sometimes when you don't know what the photos are going to look like. Like right now, my pet portraits are set up like you buy the pet portrait and then I get a photo. And sometimes it's kind of a disaster with what the photos look like. With pets though, I can kind of like still like make some magic happen because you can like look up other dogs that are the same breed, and kind of work with it. It might not be the best photo, but with people, like it's very important to get their likeness. So having that really nice photo, that well lit photo, the colors are pretty spot on is really, really great. So I really love that part of your process. So I just want to highlight that for anyone who's thinking about doing something like this.
Oh yeah, that's so important. And I mean, I've even kind of struggled with that even as far as like I offer a gift card option, and I've had some people even like trying to refine my process they gift it to someone, and this is not to be an ageist thing, but we all know that our parents and our grandparents over the age, they start to send you the screenshots from their gallery of a 4x6 in a photo album that has a glare on it. And you're like, who is even in this photo? There's no way, but they've already paid for it. And, you're just kind of like, I'm locked into this really difficult situation. How can I maneuver this? And so if I can control it, like like you just mentioned, on my workflow, then I definitely, seeing their reference photo is, top tier. I don't send a deposit link out for anyone to book until I have seen their reference photo and can confirm that it's something I want to paint and that I can paint.
Yes, I think that is also an important distinction. Yes, you can do this, but you also want to do it. Like if you get a reference photo and you're like, oh Lord, like if I were you and I got these plaid shirts that you always get, because I feel like you're always doing plaid shirts. I'm like, I would be like, you know what? This guy's wearing a blue shirt. We're going to make a deal. We're changing the guy's shirt. Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to do this plaid, but you always nail it every time, like all the little details. Yeah, that's amazing. And one of the things I've done too with pet portraits is I did create like a guide and being like, here is what to look for with this. Here's all these like kind of rules to help and like examples of good and bad photos that would work. So maybe that's something else to consider for like the gift guide. The gift card folks but still it's the older people, they're still there. They don't even know how to open the link. I'm going to be honest.
Oh yeah. Sometimes it's just, you just got to laugh at it. It's part of the business. It's comical.
It's quite funny. Or like the ones who want you to like do a pet portrait of their dog and they like don't even have a picture at all. They're like, I'll just tell you about them. Okay. And I'm like, great. I can read minds. That is exactly.
Yeah. And that's something too. This is totally side tangent for portrait people, but sometimes, I guess the people in your life, just like the dog in your life. And so people will reach out to portrait artists and they're like, hey, can you combine like my grandfather that passed away with like my newborn son and all these people? And it's a beautiful idea. And sometimes I can do that. But a lot of times they want someone standing and someone sitting, and I don't know these people in real life. Like, how tall were they? How big were they? Like, how were they? And it's like, to make anything, I guess there are some people that kind of do those like faceless portraits, and I think that you could probably do it from those. I kind of strive a little bit more for realism, and I have this on like my FAQ page because I get this request a lot, but I didn't know your people in real life, and so I've got to just go off of photos, and so I have to kind of see them standing beside each other or sitting beside each other. Like, it's just all the things you wouldn't think about until you get down to the nitty-gritty of having to actually try to create this for someone.
Yeah, Grace, any kind of sorry, Elizabeth, go ahead. You go, Brad.
I was going to ask Grace if it almost seems like in those instances, if you could partner with like a artist who is amazing at Photoshop. And then it's like, hey, here's the 6 photos. Here's like a dot on each person they kind of want combined. And then they could like make a reference photo for you for those people that are extra complicated.
Yes, this is actually a great shout out for you guys to the A to Z directory, because I have had this problem before, and I have shot one out to the A to Z directory before, and someone in there, I hate that I'm forgetting her name, but she'll know who she is. I put my email there and she was like, hey, I worked some Photoshop magic. Let me know. And it was like a totally new photo. And I was like, this is perfect. And so I was like, they're there. They're already in the community. And I offered to pay her, but she was really too kind. And she was like, no, here you go. It's for free. So
yeah, people do that quite a bit, which is the most lovely thing.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh,
such an amazing
that makes
community.
Me so happy. Yes,
Yeah.
It really is such an amazing community. Guys, see, just another way, another reason to join the A to Z directory because you get free Photoshop. Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
So because you're painting such realistic portraits and most of them are people, I mean, literally with painting portraits of, and especially people, like one brushstroke that is off can change the whole look of like their eyes. And they're like, that's not them. It doesn't even look like them. Like there's so much pressure, and it's crazy how like the tiniest detail can like make or break the likeness. So do you have tips on kind of recreating that likeness? And also, have you had instances where, you know, the customer was like, wait, you didn't get John's mole on his left cheek here, what is going on? And like dealing with some feedback like that.
Hey guys, we just wanted to hop in and talk about one of our amazing resources, the A to Z directory. All of us have thought at some point, how did she do that, or how did she make that? And maybe you don't know where to start or how the heck to produce this amazing product you've dreamt up.
Well, the A to Z directory is the missing puzzle piece in your biz, you guys. Seriously. So it's built in the form of a yearly membership, and it's your one-stop shop for finding suppliers and vendors for all the things. Literally where to print everything from custom invitations, greeting cards, mugs, koozies, acrylic printing, letterpress, custom ribbon. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it literally goes from A to Z. From acrylic printers to zipper pouches, we have it in the A to Z directory.
We want to help all of you search less and create more with this list of 300 plus vendors and suppliers. Don't worry, they're very organized. It's not going to be overwhelming and confusing when you join. And this membership also includes access to a private Facebook community. It's incredibly active and involved. And if you need a question answered fast, that is definitely the place to go.
Yeah, our Facebook group really is the best. You guys, everyone is so helpful in there. And we're in there too, answering questions you guys might have. So it's a great way to get access to us and ask us things without sliding into our DMs. So we're more likely to answer you in the Facebook group, just saying. Anyway, also in the Facebook group, this is new for 2020 and we're really excited about it. We are hosting monthly Power Hour Q&A sessions that are live, and these are only available to our A to Z directory members. So you can hop in with us live and ask us all your burning questions in real time and just hang out with us every month. And we do these at different times so you can actually be there live, and the replays are always available in the Facebook group for members.
This resource is priced at $147 a year, which honestly is extremely affordable, and it's full of so many benefits, such as exclusive vendor coupons for members only. And we would love to have you guys join. Seriously, it's kind of like our family and our tribe. So visit bizbirthdaybash.com/directory to sign up today and use coupon code podcast2020 to receive $20 off your first year. That's podcast, all caps, 2020 for $20 off your first year.
We can't wait to see you in the Facebook group.
Yes. Okay, so this is going to sound so nerdy, but I actually did invest in an anatomy book when I first started like studying the human face. That sounds so weird, but it really did help because there's so many small details that I think even in just painting the face, I don't know, that you might not realize, like especially around the eyes, like so many of your eye ducts and like where your lashes actually lie and like eye creases, things that you might just generally just like paint a line, you know, and realize it's actually like 3 lines that are in there creating some dimension. Studying anatomy of the face actually helped a lot at the beginning. But as far as like just going from a specific reference photo and getting their likeness, this goes back to a class I took in college, just figure sketching. And if you have a reference photo, it's the whole like painting it upside down type idea.
Yeah.
Helps me a lot. And that's just really making sure that I'm not painting what I think I see and I'm actually drawing what's actually there. But also there's so many good resources out there just on like proportions of the face. I mean, I remember it was so weird for me realizing that your eyes are actually at your ear level. Like when you first start drawing faces, you want to put your eyes like in the middle of someone's forehead until you realize how big foreheads actually are. And like realizing that most of your facial features only take up the bottom 2/3 of your face. So just even like basic proportions like that is a really helpful guideline. But as far as client feedback, I have only ever had one instance in 2.5 years of doing this where someone did not think that it looked just like their person. And funny enough, so the bride ordered it. It was a wedding portrait. And the bride was really excited. She ordered it. And when I shipped it, it was the groom that I heard back from. And he was like, I just have to let you know that we got this portrait and it looks nothing like me. I'm actually like so embarrassed. Like, I don't even want to hang it up in my home. And I was like, oh my gosh. So first bad review. And it's like one of those, like almost like your horse one, Cami, I think.
Yeah.
It's like this like punch to the gut. And it's crazy because I don't know about you. Any ones that I've ever received some weird feedback on, they're always ones that I love. I don't expect it at all. Like typically the ones I'm a little like, I hope the client likes this. They're always like, this was above my expectations. And I'm like, oh, thank God. But it's like the ones that I like have no doubts about that people are like, so anyways, the groom messaged me back and it was really just about his mouth. He felt like it made his mouth look really big. And anyways, at that point, I really didn't have a ton within my language on my website or any contracts. So I had them ship it back and I tried to make some adjustments. And this might be way too technical for the podcast, but essentially a note here is that if you ever are painting someone's teeth, a small tidbit is that people's teeth really aren't as white as you think that they are, especially when you're painting them. And if you leave them white, it does make the mouth look bigger. And so a big tip to like help someone's mouth seem a little bit more planted in their face is to kind of make their teeth yellow. And so it was really just taking his portrait back and I tried to make his cheeks a little bit bigger and I made his teeth a little bit more yellow and I sent it back and they loved it. And so
Oh my gosh.
It's so random, you guys. I did not expect it, but that's the only one I've ever had to adjust.
This is like the first time in the history of ever that someone had their teeth yellowed and they liked it better.
Yeah,
I'm just cracking up right now, but I totally understand what you mean, like getting that little bit of a shade in there, so it's not so like white. But also, I'm trying not to crack up over here, not because you're making me laugh, Grace, but just because the conversation about the anatomy of the face and like is like only a conversation that either an artist or a serial killer would have, because we're just like, yeah, when you study the eyes and just the different creases of the face and like, I don't know, it's just, sorry guys, I'm being weird, but no, those are some super great tips. And yeah, it's always the ones that you're like, this is my best work, and they're like, you know what, I don't like it, and you're like, how? Okay, yeah. And then you send off the sketchy ones and you're like, this is not good, like there's no way
this is
like
sketch AF.
Yeah, this is not a good, like I sent off this one painting I did, you guys. First of all, the reference photo was not great either. It was a hummingbird sitting on this man's hand, and hands are weird. I mean, Grace, I'm sure you know, hands are like one of the trickiest things ever. And I was like, I can do this. And then I was like painting the hand. I was like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do this. And like the hummingbird, it was like blurry, and I was like, oh my Lord. And I sent it back, and I was like, and he like loved it. And I was like, that is the ugliest painting. I never even posted a picture or shared it with anyone because it was so bad. But I personally thought, but he loved it. So there you go. So weird.
I know. It's crazy. You can't predict it. And so many people, especially with portraits, they're like, hey, can you touch up my face here or there? And it's the things, and especially when it comes to people that are a little bit older, a lot of times I have people say, hey, can you take some wrinkles off of my mom? She's really sick. And I want to. And that's the thing I always tell them is like, I will do what I can. But the harsh reality is that your wrinkles make you who you are, you know? And if I take away your smile wrinkles or your crow's eyes around your eyes, the crow's lines, whatever, like it's not going to look like your mom anymore. It's just going to look a little weird. It's going to look a little off. It's going to look a little plastic.
Like the AI version of your mom.
Yes. And so it's like, as much as you may not like them, it's kind of, maybe it's a lesson for us all, you know, like our imperfections make us who we are, even in a portrait. And so Yeah. I kind of sometimes go back and forth with clients to try to fight them a little bit to keep the freckles, keep the wrinkles. It makes it better.
Yeah, it is not Photoshop. It is a beautiful painting. And I have seen Grace has painted one of my very best friends. I saw you did her wedding portrait. I think you did her daughter recently too, Katie.
Yes.
Yeah. And it literally, you captured her and her mom's essence so well, because I know you don't like personally know them, but I do.
Yeah.
And so seeing that I was like, oh my gosh, like you captured everything about this just perfectly. So it's just like a testament to how amazing your work is. But you really did just like do such a great job with that, and I loved it. So that was really fun to see.
I love Katie's such an interesting person in the fact that she's come back to me so many times, and it's really cool seeing this now with portrait clients being 2 years into this now. I have people like Katie and some others like her where I've painted her and her mom, I've painted her and her husband, and I've also painted her grandmother, and now I've painted her daughter. And it's just funny because like as I'm painting them, I'm like, oh, she has her mom's nose. Oh, they have their grandmother's smile, and her daughter has her eyes. And it's like, it's funny because you know their faces, and it's just like you kind of get to know people in a different way when you study their face. As creepy as that is, I can see their family line like through all the different ones that I've painted them, and I'd recognize them anywhere. You know?
Oh my gosh, why am I about to cry right now, you guys? Like I'm so
honestly, I feel the same because I'm looking once again at Grace's Instagram page, and I found the post of where you did put the father who had passed away with the bride because she wanted the two of them, and that's like that's so emotional.
It's so emotional, you guys. Okay. I gotta bring it back to something not so into. Okay, back to Katie,
all right.
Because
I'll say something funny about that. I'll say something funny about that one. Then. That one, I was trying to. This is a testament for if you're doing something, you have to walk away, because I was painting that one, and I tried to put his hand like around her waist. Mm-hmm. She was wearing this kind of mesh dress on the side, and I was like, okay, here's a bigger guy, and so I kind of like put these like big masculine manly fingers there, and I was like, oh, this is so sweet. He's like hugging her, and I walked away, caught lunch, came back up, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, it looks like she has 3 fat rolls like on the side of her, like, and I was like, oh, I've got to get rid of that. Cause like, I just didn't even think about it. It went from mesh to like fat rolls and like hands, like, and so I like had to put his hand somewhere else, but or just like put the nubs of his fingers. But it was just a testament for like, you have to walk away from your work and then come back with fresh eyes, because to me, it was very sentimental. And then I came back and it was fat rolls, and she is very slender. And so I was like, okay, this is not it.
Yeah. It's crazy what you notice when you step away, or if you take a picture like on your iPhone and just look at it like that. For some reason, like I notice what I need to do like really quickly with like proportions with that, which is very odd. But just real quick side tangent again. So I have painted like all of Katie's dogs. I think she has like 42 dogs, and I painted like all of them. Not really, you guys, but she at one point did have like 50 dogs, because the number just keeps escalating. But she always has dogs. I painted like every dog she's ever owned, and I love that you're just like painting everyone in her family, and I'm painting all of her dogs. And so she probably just has a wall of like all these custom portraits in her house, which I just love. So
me too. She's an ideal client. Katie gets a gold star.
We give Katie a gold star. I'm going to send her this episode and be like, you need to listen to this. Oh, love it so much. Okay. Where are we, Elizabeth? Bring me back on the train.
All right, I'll write it back in. I love it though. I'm just having fun, honestly, just like listening. Okay, so you had mentioned before, Grace, that you mainly got business at the beginning because you like ran this discount sale, and you've had a wait list ever since. So it seems like not much has changed about the way that you get clients, because it's kind of a little bit of like word of mouth and repeat people coming back, which is amazing because we don't get that in weddings, right? You like really hope that they don't come back again. But I would love to know for the way you promote your work or the way you share your work on social media, how much weight do you put on that in your business today?
Honestly, not as much. I mean, I won't ever discount the fact that I get a ton of inquiries from Instagram. I'm so grateful for the audience that's there and for the reach, even though it's way more limited now than it used to be. I'm so grateful for it. But as far as like the weight and even the pressure that I put on myself for getting clients there, I've had to take it off of myself and just have fun with it, and only post things that I really enjoy. And I do find that I actually get sometimes I get more clients. And then, I mean, personal side of that, my own relationship in my faith with the Lord, I really just trust the Lord to bring me clients. But honestly, right now, SEO on my website has been a big player. I've really seen my numbers go up with just people finding my website and submitting forms there. And then also I do more markets now than I used to, not for the sake of like, I do have some prints and some things, but really events are a huge marketing tool for me. I bring at least 300 business cards. And even I typically pass out 100 to 200 business cards at every, because you just, it's kind of like what you guys were saying. It's a very emotional thing. And I'll bring I order extra prints of some of the paintings that I really love. I've got one of Katie's, her and her mom in here somewhere. But I bring stuff like that to fairs. And then people are like, oh my gosh, you do this? Wait, can you do this? And I'm like, yes, I can. And it's like they're already there thinking about gifts for people because they're buying knickknacks. And so when they find a custom gift, it's just like so many people in my feedback form. I have a thing like, how did you hear about me? I'd say the breakdown is like, I'd say at least 45% of people now are like, I got your card in an event, or my friend got your card at an event, and we've just been holding on to it for a few months. And like,
wow.
So I do events now. I mean, the payoff for like an event fee might be $30 or it might be $100 or $200. But even still, if I get one client from that, I mean, a custom portrait is at minimum a couple $100s, so it's like if I get one client from an event, which I normally get several, then I've made back my money. So events are big.
It's a true testament to what Cami and I actually talked about our craft fairs and in-person markets episode. We had said it's like worth it to go just to leverage yourself in your services, not necessarily your products,
Yes.
So amazing. I love that.
And honestly, I will say, as I used to be dependent upon friends and family, I'm really grateful that it's not just them anymore, which it never really was. I'd say it's like 4% friends and family at this point, or like painting for someone that I know. And the amount of pressure that I put on myself when I know someone, or like I know who it's going to, or I'm going to have to go to their house at some point in the future and see my work up on their walls. It's just, I almost dread painting for friends and family at this point, just because it's just, I don't know, it's a whole mind game. So I'm really grateful at this point that I mainly paint for strangers. It just makes it easier.
Yeah, I agree. There's way less pressure when you're working with strangers than with your family and friends, because you're like, I want to do the best job ever and show them that I'm a legitimate business owner. And then you're like, okay, this is way too much pressure. For what? They don't even care. Like, they're still going to love you. But it's so ridiculous how we get inside our head like that. Yes. Okay, so you're painting like 200 or 300 portraits a year, you mentioned. That is a lot of time actually painting. So can you tell us what you do when you can't get in the mood to paint? Because I know as artists, we can be like kind of weird about this. And I know a lot in our audience like struggle with like, I need to paint, I need to get creative, I'm just not feeling it today. So can you talk us through how you work through those feelings?
Oh, yeah. So it's interesting because I turned my hobby into my career. But it's funny though, because if I have a Saturday to myself, I still want to paint because it's like the thing I really like to do, So it's like I've been having to find ways to make painting not related to my work. And so here recently I've gotten back into oil painting, and granted I'm kind of doing a no-no, and I'm already kind of monetizing there as well. But I've just had to have like fun projects for myself to kind of like flip through. So like if I don't feel motivated to work on a client project, I probably shouldn't, because I'm probably going to mess it up. And so I typically have 4 to 5 paintings going at a time. So I typically can kind of push through them or like cycle through them, paint something I want to. But sometimes it's good to step away. The only thing I'll say with stepping away completely, especially for a few days, like if you go on a trip, is that as weird as it sounds, like you kind of have to relearn your brushes every time you go back. You kind of have to get your feel back. And I hate that. I always hate the first thing I paint when I come back from not touching my brushes for a little bit, because I'm like, oh, this is garbage. And so
I totally relate to that.
Yes. So it's kind of like, in some ways it's good for me to kind of push through and even just paint something, even if it's just for fun, so that I don't totally lose like my feel for the brushes. But there are definitely days I just have to like not even go upstairs. But
Yeah, that is so true. There have definitely been times where I have slung a brush or two just over my shoulder in the studio, and I'm sure Julianne's like, what the heck is going on? So I'm like, this brush is the worst. And I order like 30 new brushes. I'm like, I hate all these brushes. Like they have one
Yes.
little stray hair raw off, and it's just ruining.
Yes.
I'm definitely like a brush thrower artist. Like just something about it. So yeah, you do have to like kind of get back in the swing of things and just relearn it. So that's a good tip. That's kind of what I do too. Is just paint something that's feels familiar, that I enjoy, that's not like doesn't have any pressure on it. It doesn't matter. I always go to florals for that because I just enjoy that process. And then trying
Yeah.
to get back into like portraits is it's a little trickier because there's just a lot more on the line. So thanks for those tips.
Yes, thank you so much. And we're going to throw like one last really big one at you before we wrap things up. This is like opening a whole nother can of worms. And obviously, Cami and I have done episodes on shipping your artwork in the past. But before we like wrap up, I just really wanted to get your insight quickly about shipping portraits. So it's going to be like rapid fire. What do you do if one goes missing? What are ways people can set them up for success when it comes to shipping? And also, do you offer international? So those are kind of like the three I want to know.
Okay. So was the first one setting yourself up for?
First one is, what do you do if one goes missing? And then, but you could answer them in either order. It's fine.
Okay. So when one goes missing, I've only had this happen once. And number one, pray. But number two, bug the heck out of whoever you shipped it through. I will say, I never, ever, ever will ship an original through USPS ever again, just because the customer service there is not great. But UPS. So I'd say number one to set yourself up for success would be pay the extra for good service. I only ship originals through UPS now, only. And it's a few dollars more, but it's absolutely worth it. But if it does go missing, what I've done with the client is over communicate. Like in the sense that like let them know that you're working on it. I let them know anytime, like just in general, like, hey, I just want to let you know, like this week I've contacted them this many times. And also while they were waiting for their portrait, because it took 3 months for this portrait and it showed up miraculously. But anyways, I scan all of my artwork before I send it. So I went on ahead and ordered extra prints and I sent her free prints that were already matted to the same size as her original so that she could even like have like a placeholder gift to give. And so I sent her free prints while she was waiting. And then I kind of just prayed that it would show up. And it did. And I did offer to refund her at least some of her money because the original wasn't there. But she didn't ask for any of it back. She was an ideal client. But yeah. But as far as like just setting yourself up for success, that would be pay the extra for a good service. Overwrap your things, because even for all of the do not bin stickers that you put on it, I've had portraits get slammed in car doors before, or like the UPS truck or something just like smush it in half. So tons and tons of bubble wrap. It's just prepare for the worst is kind of the best that I would say. And then almost kind of like you guys with Christmas where you talk about turn on your text notifications and to get things moving. It really does help. And I call them a lot. So yeah, that's all I guess I could say. But yeah.
And do you offer international? Sorry, that's the last one I snuck in there.
I do to a point. I have ShipStation, which is one of obviously recommended from you guys. I love it. So if I ever have an international client inquire, I go on ahead and depending on the portrait size, I go on ahead and enter all the dimensions on ShipStation. And like, I let them know what the price of the shipping will be because they're going to pay that and it won't be on me. So if they're not willing to pay for the shipping, then I don't. But I've offered it before and it's gone totally fine. I've shipped some to Germany, Amsterdam, and Switzerland. And so I've had success with all of those, but yeah, I go on ahead and figure out the total shipping cost in the beginning and go on ahead and prep the client for that.
Yeah, definitely smart on that, especially with portraits. They're kind of bigger dimensions. It's not like a small like 5x7 envelope or something. So it is going to be more. Now, are you shipping them in like boxes or are you just doing like cardboard with the painting in between it or like a mix of both, or what does that kind of look like?
Yeah. It really just depends on size.
Yeah.
If it's an 8x10 painting, for an 11x14 frame, those I can ship in those like 12x15, like flat mailers. And those I've never had bent. Those are always fine. But a lot of my paintings are 11 by 14 paintings, and they come matted for a 16 by 20. And I do ship my paintings matted just because I think it adds an air of professionalism. And I want it to be like just quick and ready for the client to pop into a frame. I know some people that kind of roll it up and stick it in a tube. And I think I just cringe a little bit at that because it's watercolor paper and I don't want to have you can't really unroll that like you can a print or like a, so I always do. And it also has the backing board to keep it flat. So those are in kind of like bigger white boxes. And in those, I've got several layers of like backing board, protection, and clear coat covers, and then bubble wrap inside cardboard. And so it's a whole array of things. But yeah, they come in larger boxes.
Yeah, my parents, when they ship my dad's artwork, his paintings are ginormous. I mean, I say ginormous because I prefer painting like 8 by 10. 11 by 14 is like the max because I don't want to deal with shipping larger paintings because they do have to stay flat. You're right. Watercolor cannot be rolled. And his are like, I don't know, like they'll be like 24 by 36. And my parents have just like these giant sheets of cardboard that are just like, like it would last through a nuclear war. Like one thing about my parents, they're going to wrap that box really good. And it has like 5 or 6 like sheets of cardboard where it is flat in between it. And it's like this like homemade box with like tape all the way around the edges. I actually hate when my parents send me stuff in the mail because Alex is like, how are we going to open this? Why do your parents pack everything like this? I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's so annoying. Christmas, oh my gosh, Christmas morning. I'm like, guys, it's under the tree. It's not going anywhere. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. So yeah, it definitely is tricky with the larger portraits having to stay flat. I have heard too, just as like a side tip, that UPS will wrap your stuff for you if you would like to trust it to the hands of them. But considering it's original artwork, it is a little scarier, but you could also try that, you guys, if that's something you're considering for some of those larger pieces, if you don't want to like keep cardboard in stock, like really large pieces. So yes,
for sure. They definitely do. They do charge for it though. So if you're going to be doing it frequently, I've done that once, and I did it when I shipped a glass frame. I will never ship glass ever again. But one time I did ship something in a glass frame. Oh gosh, yeah, I did ship something in the glass frame, and I had them. I was like, "You guys are going to wrap it because you guys are going to be responsible if it breaks." So yeah, that's where I brought it and paid for. Actually, had the client pay for it, but that was the one situation where they did.
That is so smart. If I was shipping glass as well, I would do the same thing because I'd be like, "You are responsible for this." And they know the best way to do it. So
exactly.
Oh, brilliant.
Grace, this has been so much fun, and you have shared a ton of valuable information. Like, I know that people are going to love this. Yay. So take some time to tell us if you first, like, what your favorite materials are, if you want to share some with your audience, like your go-tos, and also tell us when you're planning to release your courses. I know that there's something in the work, and I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, for sure. So favorite materials offhand, my people probably definitely know about these. It's from this really sketchy website called Robax, but they're great. The spinning watercolor palette, and it has just saved my life from having to reach over and get the right paint that I need. I can just spin and swivel, and it has these little little wells that you can take out and replace. So it's Robax. So a Robax palette, they're wonderful. I talk about my canvas lamp all the time. I think most people know about them. Huge lifesaver to be able to paint any time of day.
What's it called again? Say it one more time.
The canvas lamp.
Okay.
It's that phone stand with the light in it. Lots of people love them.
Okay.
I think their Instagram is Shop Canvas Co.
Yeah, there's a dot in there somewhere, I think.
Yes. I think it's Shop Canvas and then period Co. Yes. Their lamps and their customer service, guys. I mean, I'm not a paid person for them. I mean, they're just incredible. So check them out. I could talk for days about them, but their products are incredible. And anyways, I can paint whenever I want. So with that, but otherwise, probably my scanner is probably my other one. Probably my favorite. I have an Epson V39 Perfection scanner. And
that is what I have too. I think that's what I have. Yes.
Yes. It's wonderful, and I absolutely love it. It scans all my artwork, and My favorite. And IKEA drawers. That's my last one. IKEA drawers for the win for
Okay.
putting large pieces of paper in them. So those are my
Yes.
favorite things.
What would we
Okay,
do
I love
without
it. I'm
IKEA?
like making sure that these links will be on the podcast notes online. So if people want to go find them directly, we will have
Yes.
them there.
So sorry to
Yes.
list so many.
And then, Grace, just tell us where everyone can find you on Instagram. And you mentioned some courses. So just tell us if there's anything like a wait list for that. So just
Yeah.
tell us all the things. Just start plugging
Okay.
yourself and make it awkward about your name and everything. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
Yes, I'll try and make this really quick. So, essentially, courses are have been a dream of mine. They're essentially the main thing that people ask me for online all the time. I have a goal of trying to release my mini course by the end of this year, just so that I can kind of get my feel for courses. And it's going to be in textiles. So kind of like what you mentioned before, Cami, people know me for painting plaid. It's going to go through like mainly clothing on figures. So like plaid, using what is it, masking fluid for like lace on wedding dresses, kind of just the more complicated textiles. I'm going to go through that in this mini course. And then next year, I'm trying to release the big kahuna, my big course on skin tones and painting people. And so those are the big two. So one, hopefully by the end of this year, and then hopefully the larger one sometime next year. But you guys could find me on Instagram at Grace Manning Art, or my website is gracemanningart.com. And all the things Grace Manning Art, you can probably find me. Because like Cami, it's just my name.
It's just my name. So don't weird out, guys. Just kidding. Go find me on.
Sentimental like little note or moment, Grace. So while we were speaking, like whenever I'm talking to someone, I'm like stalking their website or stalking their Instagram because it always just like is so visual for me.
Yeah.
Your set of 2 dancing girls, the art prints that you have,
Oh.
I bought them
Yeah.
while we were all talking because they look, I kid you not, it looks like my sister-in-law. Like I can't
Oh.
imagine it being anybody else. So I'm going to give those to her for her birthday in December, but I just can't get
Oh,
over it. I keep
wow.
staring at them because I'm like, this looks exactly like Alyssa. Like it looks exactly like her. It's crazy.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, I love that. I painted them for a friend of mine. She put in her little girl's nursery. And so
Uh-huh.
I'm very glad. Yay.
Yeah.
Well, there
So-
you go, you guys. Oh my
You're
gosh,
also
I'm gonna
a
go look now.
wonderful gift planner. I wish I was as on top of it as you are, getting gifts this ahead of time.
Elizabeth
know
is
what
so
I-
good at that.
Do you know what I kind of do? This is going to sound crazy, but I'll share my tip with everybody. I dedicate pretty much like August and September is my gift shopping months for Christmas because
Wow.
by the time October, November, December hits, everything's like boom, boom, boom. Your Halloween, your Thanksgiving, Christmas, it all happens at once. And I have found that the best way for me to like truly enjoy that season is to basically just during August and September, I start making my list and I start looking for things. And obviously, here we are, even in July. So that's my little like pro life tip, I guess, for
Wow.
anybody who wants to think about approaching gifting that way. It's just been much better for me to do it that way.
Wow. You're a pro. I strive
Yeah.
to be like you one day.
I hope to be like that because I do my gift shopping in December, the month of December, maybe like mid-December.
Yes.
So I need to work on that.
Honestly,
Well, it's okay, 'cause
Cami
we're
does.
artists. We paint for them.
Yeah, Cami gives incredible gifts. So obviously the lack of time is not hindering her gifting ability. I will say that. Every time I get something with her, I'm like, this is amazing.
That makes me so happy.
So yeah, you do not have anything to worry about, Cami. But Grace, thank you so much for everyone listening. Obviously find Grace on social media, but make sure that you take a screenshot of the episode while you're listening, whether it's Spotify or iTunes or any other platform. Post it to your Instagram stories and make sure you tag Grace at Grace Manning and also Grace Manning Art, and then tag Cami and I in Biz Birthday Bash as well, so that we know that you guys are listening and enjoying it. And of course, if you feel so inclined, give us a rating and review on iTunes because we really love that too. So that is all for the day. I think we covered a lot of ground.
We really did. Grace, thank you so much. This was such a great conversation. I'm just so excited to talk to you. And I know everyone's just going to love it. So, all right, you guys, we love you. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.